Thank you everyone for coming here tonight. I'd like to share to you today some of the secrets of some masters in Asia and also the Himalayas that had been given to me in bits and pieces, as Sue has given in her introduction. And I had synthesized and distilled all of this knowledge and information into doable actions or convert into skills in action that I can transfer to people, even for a few minutes or hours of training. Before that, I'd like to also talk about different philosophies that has been, I would say, unfolded in time during my training with some masters of the Himalayas in Asia. And being an engineer, I had tried to reason out with my logical mind these abstract principles. And of course, being a business person, I'd like to transfer this into, I would say, life equities or things that you can use for gaining a better life. So Live Your Greatest Life talk is offered to everyone who is seeking a path in life that is not just a career path, but a life path. Who can give me the difference between merely living our existence and living a great life? Is there a difference between existing as a human being or living as a human being? Existence versus life, is there any difference? When you say alive or alive?
I think
yes.
maybe if you live with a purpose, then it's a big difference.
Yeah.
So when you live, you have a purpose. And when you exist, it's just, well, day-to-day affairs, right? So welcome to our talk about living your greatest life, or our greatest life. Now, how many people today can say that we are living a great life, or living at least a good life? May I say, raise of hands? A good life. Good. How about a great life? Very good. How many among your friends or relatives are just merely existing, not living? Anybody? Yes? Yeah, a lot of people today, I'm sorry to have a comparative word saying people are like ants. They go to work, back and forth, back to work, carry loads in their hands, and just saving for the rainy day. Like today, it's raining. And hopefully one day they retire and they can still remember their names, or at least they don't have back pain to enjoy the fruits of their labor. But a lot of people that I have encountered are very rich people who are very successful, but they are suffering through their health issues and conditions. And I tell you, they do not even taste their food anymore because the doctor would tell them, don't eat this, don't eat that. Like almost 60% of the food chain they cannot eat. So even you have all the money in the world, if you cannot eat the food you want, it seems like there's torture. How many people are realizing that there is a greatest life that you can live? Greatest life, not just great life. Are you aspiring to have one? Very good. I think if you think big and far, most likely the reality we create are more profound. See, if this is the possibility we create by our own intention, inside is called the probability, which is smaller, and the reality is even smaller than the probability. What if you expand your possibilities to a bigger limit, and your probability is this and the reality is bigger? So today I'd like to expand your consciousness or your possibilities so that our reality to live our greatest life would be deeper and more profound. So I would like to share to you some techniques, life tools, in order to live the greatest life that we deserve. And not just a life of struggle or suffering, but life that is lived with harmony, with maximum usefulness and maximum integrity. Now, let me just say, what are the four most important times of our life? In my travel around the world, I have discovered that there are 4 most important times of our lives. The time that we were born and the time we die. Most people, if not all people, will die. Born and death. Some immortals, maybe they live another 30,000 years. I have heard from my mentor that there's somebody, either in China or in India, who can live for 30,000 years. There are the super immortals. But I have met this guru in the Himalayas who is just around 400 years old. And he has very, very long hair. He doesn't have wrinkles. He's a breatharian. He just lives on air. And he's always naked. And at a high altitude, he doesn't wear any jacket. So if you see him, you might not believe his age as 400 years, but you can believe that he can control his body temperature by being naked in the snow all the time. And barefooted, and you can have 2 jackets, but he's just naked. So if you don't believe that he is an immortal, at least you believe that he has a mind control over his body. So I studied with him. So when I met my other teacher, he said that those immortals are junior immortals. He said the real immortals are more than 30,000 years old. So I said, wow, that's mind-boggling, right? But I've been studying the science of immortality that I was very passionate and sometimes obsessed when I was younger. To study the science of immortality. And when I look at the different techniques, they have a similar technique that they've been teaching, including from Tibet, from Nepal, from China, from Japan, from Indonesia. And there are many techniques that deals with breathing science and mental science and soul science and divine science, that when I look at them, they are really possibilities to live our greatest life, not just to prolong your life and spend around 10 years in bed because we are so weak to come up, but to live your greatest life, to grow and advance your life wiser and stronger, not weaker and more senile. So there are many techniques that I have gathered which I can share to you today or maybe in the future, which can not only prolong your lifespan, but it can really boost your vitality to live better, also to heal your emotions and stabilize your feelings, because they are sometimes our battleground, the emotions, our fears, our wars, our anxieties. And also to sharpen our minds, to be able to think clearly and make better decisions. And also to awaken the power of our souls, to be able to have more enlightened life. Now these teachings had been only possessed by sages of old and wise gurus and mentors, but they are always there available for us. So being an engineer and a business person, I brought it down from the mountains, and today they are available in my books, they're available in my CDs and DVDs, and maybe we can discuss a few techniques today on how to overcome our limitations in this life. What are the most important things in your life? Gaurav?
Having a good relationship with your family members.
Good relationship with the family, yes. Good. Abby?
Also good relationships with people, not just family, but even coworkers.
Co-workers, friends. Lay?
Live with passion.
Huh?
Live with passion.
Live with passion. John?
Be sure of yourself.
Be sure of yourself. Good. Jerry?
To love and be loved.
To allow?
To love.
To love and be loved. Yeah, that's very important. Erja?
Live a healthy life.
Healthy life. Dinesh?
I second that, yeah.
Healthy life.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Renu? To continue? Love people? Mm-hmm. Sunny? Freedom. Diana?
Doing something you're passionate about.
Doing something passionate about. Heidi?
To be successful in personal projects.
Successful personal projects. Okay, Leo.
Service, purpose, and maximum utility.
Okay, service, passion,
Purpose
purpose,
and maximum utility.
maximum utilities, yeah, utilization. Okay, so most people have different priorities. That's why they have different milestones in life and different sets of processes. Now, in my research around the world in different culture, living in different countries, I have discovered that there are 5 key areas of life, and there are 4 most important periods of our lives, which I will go back. So everything that we desire or be passionate about or aspire or be inspired to achieve are within these 5 aspects. One is family. Okay? Most people have mentioned about family life relationship. One is career and work, and the passion of service, your personal goals and what you want to do. And also some are health and recreation in life. So that's very important. What else? Social relationship, but also social contribution. Not just social life, but contribution to society. And what else? Spiritual life. At certain levels of your life, when you have achieved your career, when you have a good family, you have already retired or was successful, you still have a good health, but if you are missing the spiritual essence or meaning of a higher development, I think you will be longing for that. Even saintly people like Mother Teresa, before they died, they go into what we call the dark night of the soul, where they have this longingness and yearning of something they do not understand, and they blame it that it's lack of Christ's love for them, or they do not have connections to God anymore, or they have this yearning of something they do not understand. And when I look at different saints before their initiations, including avatars like Jesus and Buddha, they go into a long meditation, like 40 days, 40 nights in the desert like Jesus, and the Lord Buddha also, to go into a meditative state and contemplative state, to long for that yearning that is missing. As apathy seeps in, you will be in a so-called loneliness and meaninglessness, or in Zen they call it nothingness, that as if you are empty. And that time you are looking for something that is beyond the family, beyond your career, beyond your material satisfaction, beyond your health, and beyond even your social contacts exploration. And that is your contact to your soul. And that is another path to enlightened life. So they go into a deep meditation to bring down that new essence, which brings them to the new next steps of their lives, next episode, called initiation, or a jump or a quantum leap to a higher consciousness. I have encountered even saintly people, even lamas and yogis in the Himalayas or Nepal or Tibet, that they go to a saturation phase where they do the same technique, they do the same yoga, they do the same breathing, they do the same chant and prayer, but they, as if they reach a ceiling where they also become lonely. And so that search starts again there, called initiation, or going to a threshold of discovery, a new discovery or breakthrough, like a breaking through. I had this experience a long time ago when I was younger, after my ingenious life, that after I have achieved what I wanted, see, when you achieve your passion, you go to emptiness, because what's next? You go into a lull or void, they call it a void, or a spiritual void, where there's nothing that means anything. There's no meaning to anything. And in esoteric parlance, it's called the dark night of the soul. And even the saints and sages have to go through this transitionary phase where there's a gap of consciousness. And that search starts to explode and go to a burst. That's why it's very important for us to include spiritual life in our planners, in our agenda. Because I plotted many lives of successful people. Their chart, if you have a pie chart and you have 5 key areas, their career life is around 60%. Their health can be around 15% because you need to include sleeping and food. And their social life is probably 15 or more. The spiritual life is almost 2%. They're not focusing there. If you see their planners, there's nothing for spirituality. There's nothing to go for social contribution that is beyond the payment, the pay slips. And so that is missing in a lot of people. And so that void, which you do not feel satisfied, no matter how much money you have, how many PhD you will collect, and how many friends you have, and how much money you have in your bank account, or how many families you have help in your family, there's a certain threshold of happiness that does not satisfy when the spiritual development is not punctured. And through my own experiences, I had gone through this dark night of the soul many times, layer after layer. Once you achieve a certain level of threshold of satisfaction and achieving a certain passion, again you go into that lull, which brings you again to another search. So even the saintly people like Mother Teresa, in her proclamation to her mentor, the mentor had released a manuscript or testimonial about her complaint that at a certain stage before she died, she was complaining that she had lost the love of Christ, or she has lost the meaning of love. Now, not many people know that, but in the manuscript, her mentor declared that as part of his book. It's a friar who had mentored her in her older age. So even saintly people need mentors who had crossed certain paths to give them a little bit of a tip that the insight is, yeah, that is good. Because that is another bridging to do. So spiritual life is one thing that most people do not prioritize and invest upon. If you go to Kroger, or if you go to Walmart, you go to Macy's, you go to different bookstores and others, there's not too many goods that sells ideas for spirituality. But there's so many things on concerts, a lot of books on leadership, a lot of books on travels, a lot of books on many things that are so common, but most writers do write them because that is what they have in their consciousness. Enlightenment in a high level has not been touched upon properly except meditation, yoga, but those are tools. They're not enlightenment yet. It is more of like a spoon to feed you. But the complete process from cooking to stirring the food to eating and chewing and swallowing the food is not spelled out in a sequence. The science to the divinity is not sequenced yet properly. So amongst the 5 key areas of life, I think a lot of people would always say family, career, some people say health, some people say social life. The idea of social service is more of an icing rather than a planned activity and deliberate action, not on spare time. So if you have a spare time for spirituality, it becomes spare time enlightenment. If you have full time for business, you have a full-time success to it. If you have full-time attention to health, then therefore you have a better health. If you have a part-time to your health management, therefore there is a poor health management. So whatever you do not focus on, whatever we do not allocate as time and expenditure of force and budget, we do not achieve as well as those that we focus upon. So if you look at all expenses, the minimal expenses goes to spirituality. Most will go to personal life, family life, health. We spend a lot for our health. In fact, food, vitamins, health when you're sick is very expensive. It's sometimes more than your expense in college, if you're unfortunate right now, if you don't have insurance. And sometimes people die when they say their bills instead of being alive. Yeah. Or they'd rather deny that they are sick because they don't have money to pay things that do not get insured. That's why most people have 3 insurances now, because one insurance cannot take it all, unfortunately. So most people who want to maximize their potential in life, not only to balance life and be successful, but to bring that success into fulfillment, has to see the 5 key areas of life in a checklist or in a pie chart. See, if you just chart your life on these 5 key areas and see how much time you spend on each area, you would see where there's a deficiency. It's like a vitamin deficiency. If you do not supply more vitamins on your deficiency, one day that is your disease. So the imbalances amongst the 5 key areas will see also your seeds of failure or pitfalls or loopholes in your next few years. Wherever you starve any key area of life will be your next problem. Where you overspend be probably your successful area. Where you shrink that area, it becomes another barometer of pitfalls or seeds of failure. So when I chart a lot of executives or professionals or clients, when I see there's 5 key areas of their lives, I know their next problems that they will come back to next time is the most shrunk chart. I can predict already the seeds of failure by looking at the chart. Okay, so for us to live our greatest life, we need to be aware on how to satisfy and deliberately program to spend more time, resources, and intention to those 5 key areas. So let me just randomly ask, Abby, where do you spend more time and where's the least time of your life in the 5 key areas?
Before, the least time was social.
Social life, yeah.
But I did have plenty of time for social service, so.
Mm-hmm.
And the most was career. When I'm working, I spend a lot of time on my career.
So you can have a social life but not social contribution. So that social contribution has to be a deliberate subject in college, eventually. See, if you do not give that as an intentional, deliberate action through training and habit forming, social contribution is not in the minds of most people today because it was never part of their subject. People can solve algebraic problems, all kinds of accounting problems because they studied it. But on social contribution, it was not part of the subjects. So I wish in the future, social responsibility has to be a part of the subjects in college, or even high school, or even in elementary. And so that people are habitual in that idea of giving back or contributing back to life. The happiest people are not always the richest people. If you ask me what is the most highest indicator of fulfillment, or even how you lived your life fully, it's not how much money you have, it's not how many master's degree you have, it is not how much money in your bank have, or only friends. I always ask, how much are you giving back to life? That is my measurement. Because if I don't know you, I cannot ask you how much money you have, how many PhD you have, or how many friends you have. I would just ask one question. How much contribution are you giving back to society and to life? From 0 to 100. How much performance are you doing to that purpose? If the question is small, then I would say, okay, you are still in the path to fulfillment. You are still working towards success, not to fulfillment. What's the difference between success and fulfillment, by the way? Success versus fulfillment. Anybody? Yes.
For me, talk about life, I believe the secret to living is dreaming. And once you never get beyond scarcity. You have to start beyond, because once you feel you get out yourself, you feel like you do something meaningful, help others, you feel more abundant, you feel more grateful, you feel rich inside you. So you feel more energy, more force, you can require to do to help others. But if you cannot get much out everything, not so much you can get out of something, or even master within yourself. You have to go beyond, yourself, to help others, to contribute others. That make you feel, enjoyment, feel rich. That's what I believe. That's the time you achieve the level of fulfillment.
Very good. So when you include serving other people, giving services and offering your help. Yeah. There's a difference between investing in your financial equity versus gaining from your spiritual equity or your soul equity. Most people are focused on financial equity or gaining from investments, right? So people invest in their material equity to gain ROI of money in the bank with interests. So if you donated $1,000, the equity you gain from that $1,000 that can contribute to people that can benefit out of it, the equity is higher. Immediately you will feel, you give something, you feel immediately expanded. You feel good, you feel confident, you have more self-worth, there's more self-esteem in yourself. But gaining a few bucks from the $1,000 interest sometimes doesn't give you more happiness. Have you experienced when you give something, the equity of joy comes back to you immediately as you give? But if you invest in money, that gain comes from a few years of interest rate and you don't feel good. You just feel good because, my capital had gained $200. Good. After that, nothing. But when you start to give, that equity feels that it is gained immediately when you feel expanded. Your heart starts to open and you feel good that one day a person has, contributed to life and gained some heart expansion. So when you give, there is a feeling of immediate gain or ROI. So that's why Winston Churchill said, we make a living by what we get. We make a life by what we give. So life and living is still different in that aspect. So sometimes we need to have a living, but we need to get a life by giving back certain things out, what we receive. Okay, Gaurav, what is the difference between success and fulfillment?
Success, personal, and fulfillment includes others in your path or
Okay. Yeah.
I was just thinking that success mostly has materialistic and personal connotations as well. When you hear of fulfillment, you immediately think of like spiritual or something that comes from the inside.
Okay, it's internal. That one is more external. Okay. So you can have success, but not necessarily fulfillment. So fulfillment has to relate with the internal attitude that will receive that success. Also, it is emotional, spiritual. It deals with the internal satisfaction. So a person can have financial satisfaction, but not internal satisfaction. So success is getting what you want out of your life that you work. And fulfillment is wanting what you have out of it. That internal feeling out of your success. Now, fulfillment also includes satisfying most of the key areas of life. Because a person can be successful materially, but fail in their health or in their families. Or they might not have that spiritual development led that is their next steps. So a person can have what we call the failure of success. I have seen people who are successful financially, but totally failure on one side. That's why one of our foremost principles and philosophy of our school is fly high with two wings, material wing and spiritual wing. To me, balance will always have to balance the material success and spiritual development. Once one of them is short, like if you have a lot of material success but very small spiritual awakening, you can have success but not fulfillment yet. Likewise, if you have a very strong spiritual development but there's no financial capability to express our ideas, to put an infrastructure to our dreams to help others, again you still fly with an imbalanced wing. The worst condition is if you don't have a spiritual development and there's no money also. You will have two short wings, and again, it's very tiring to be like a bird that's here. You just flap like this and you float. You don't have to. So most people who are materially successful but no spiritual development, they have to, one wing have to like this, and so there is an imbalance in their flight. So when you have material success and you have still undergoing a spiritual awakening, you don't have to cut the other one to prolong the other one. And this is another mistake of other people. Because once they achieve material success and money, and they have to embark on their spiritual growth, they decided to become fanatical here, and then they don't want to go to work anymore. So what happens at the end is they will have spiritual enlightenment and there's no money again. And it's very difficult to meditate, be calm after a meditation 1 hour, you get spacey, you get calm and peaceful. But then when you look at your bills, your credit card report, and say, did I buy all of this? Did I spend? I think it's overcharged. You blame the credit card. Because you see, you can be peaceful when you finish, after you finish meditating, and still you see that you are financially sustainable. You don't have to worry for the next day and hand-to-mouth issues. So it is good to have a lot of money. At the same time, it is good to have a spiritual development, and yet you can use that money for philanthropic work. The more money you have, the more generous you can be. It is hard to be generous if you don't have something to give. See, you can only give what you have. So if we have enough, then we can have enough. If we have little, we can only give little. And the more you have, the more beneficiaries you can help, because you have more resources, a better infrastructure, and a better number of people around you to be able to support your vision in life, to help not only the needy, but everybody that you can touch. So for a big mission to be satisfied, not only do you have a spiritual ambition to serve, or a mission to fulfill, you need to have more resources to be able to physicalize your dream into physical reality and service. So that is where a lot of spiritual people are missing. A lot of good intentions, but there's not much things to do because there's lack of resources. As Benjamin Franklin said, well done is better than well said. See, most people put their hands on the heart to pray for the poor people to be helped, right? Oh God, please help the poor people. Oh God, please the needy. Help the needy. Oh God, please help the victims of tsunamis. Now, that is when you don't have enough to give. While Bill Gates and other philanthropic agents are busy giving and opening their arms and hands, they don't have to pray anymore for that because they are busy giving. The other one is busy praying for that. They are the fulfillment of those prayers. So not only those people who fold their hands in the heart are very spiritual people. Those who are busy giving in the name of goodwill and good intentions and altruism are also very spiritual. In fact, they are more action-oriented in spirituality. Spiritually with action. So I will always advocate another principle in life. Aside from fly high with 2 wings, material and spiritual, I also advocate the principle of flower and bear fruit where you are planted, and spread your seeds around the world or around wherever you can touch. Flower and bear fruit where you're planted, and spread your good seeds around or everywhere you go. Most people have a lot of talents, but they keep it to themselves until they die. So they cannot be legendary because they die with their talents. A lot of people can duplicate themselves and transfer the capacity to help others, to serve, to heal others, and many other skills that will serve other people. Now, when they die, they have trained people that duplicates their efforts, so they do not die with their physical bodies because they have transferred their skills. So you can be immortalized in your life to live your greatest life if you can transfer service to others, or any skill that can help others as well, to transfer their skills to others. So even the teaching job is a very noble profession, because you can duplicate yourself and transfer capacity and skills to others, and you die, and those skills don't die with you. So I will always go for teaching. As I grow older, I will not stop teaching, because I know, aside from you master things when you teach it, you also transfer the capacity that you can duplicate you. And so even if you are not there anymore, you're alive because you have given people the chance to transfer the skill that you have. Do not die with your skill. Do not die with your talent. Do not die even more with your wisdom. Unfortunately, after people retire from their job, when they have more wealth of information and wealth of wisdom, they die with it because they retire and just hide in a beach or in a retirement home or in a resort where they are alone and maybe just relaxing. Now, imagine retiring with your wisdom and you want to transfer that wisdom to the younger generation. That's a waste of wisdom. Therefore, in India this year, we inaugurated the World Wisdom Bank, where we do not just pull time and talents, we pull people with wisdom, even those who are about to retire, to give them a life after retirement. Or even younger people with wisdom, we can nurture them to mentor others to transfer their wisdom and their knowledge. So we have a World Wisdom Bank that we are incubating to spread wisdom around the world by people who are retiring or people with wisdom, that they do not die with their wisdom. It is a waste. Wisdom took years to Jews. If knowledge and PhD would take years and years and decades to master, wisdom takes a life to master. And when you master a certain level of wisdom, do not die with it. What a waste. Wisdom is like diamond. When you have the diamond, do not just die with the diamond. Sell it and let those diamonds, in terms of money, go around to different people. We have also what we call the World Talent Bank, where we pull talents like young children to help other people. There are time banks also. There's some world banks. But we have to have a concept of a World Talent Bank and a World Wisdom Bank. We have studied that in India this year. And hopefully we will transfer this concept in here or everywhere we are. So we will spread talents to be in bank and used immediately rather than bank in a bank. To be useful for non-profit work, charitable work, or even good works. You have to be paid. You don't have to be punished because of your hard work. So when we speak of success and fulfillment, success usually is more of your ability to achieve your accountabilities and satisfy them. And fulfillment deals with more responsibility in life. That's beyond accountability. So this is more of the attitudes that will bring you success and knowledge. This is the wisdom and the attitude that you bring to fulfillment. So both of them are important to fly high, to achieve both material and spiritual life. So those two concepts, we use them as guidelines in our coaching and mentoring programs. So we measure those things. And we grade you on how big are your wings compared material and spiritual wing. If one is shorter, we give you tools to elongate the other one while you strengthen this one, not to cut it short. Because if you cut it short, like if you become spiritual and you want to become more materially successful and you shorten the other one because you want to do all these things here, then again you become imbalanced at the end. So even in the meditation, that's why I told you not to always use these mudras or meditation positions in yoga. Because this stimulates the spiritual energy. So if you are lacking funds or it's hard to make money, this is not good for you all the time. Because this positions of meditation stimulates the spiritual energy, but decrease the material power. Especially if you have a lotus position where you pull your feet up and bring up all the energy from the earth. So you have a root on your feet. That's why in Tai Chi we always go down in martial arts. In yoga you go on spaciness because you pull your feet in the lotus position like this and you do this. So everything goes up and you disconnect from the earth. Like when you pray. When you pray you do a gentle kneeling down so your feet goes up also. In Islam they do also this bowing down, and the feet goes up. Same with Buddhism, same with Zen, they sit on their feet. Same with genuflection. So if you see, the religions have a certain way of putting yourself from material life by pulling your roots out. If you always do yoga in that position, one day your lower energies of material power would decrease and deplete compared to your spiritual power. And then you started to become fanatical of or impractical, not to earn money, because it's not your so-called priority. Not because you don't need it. Your energy from material life is not substantial compared to your spiritual awakening. So what happens is you become impractical, and then you start to lose money or the touch for material life because you become more spiritual compared to your material existence. And then it becomes imbalanced, like a big tree with small roots. So again, the person becomes imbalanced. So in our teachings, we make sure that the student and the learner should not imbalance both the material root and the spiritual root. So you can live life, as another quotations, live life fully with one foot in heaven and one foot on earth. And our teaching always advocate those balances. So when I say balancing life, living a grace life, there are rules to follow as like a path. So your career path or family path will be brought into what we call a life path. What's the difference between a life path and a career path? Dinesh? Career path is what?
I think that's something that you can quantify probably, where as you progress in life and the career that you choose, and you reach a certain level, and that's the path that you have. Whereas life probably is, I guess, again, there's some bit of spirituality involved in that, in the life path.
Most people get born and die with a career path. See, why do you retire? Because you think your career is your life. You see that? Why do people go to retirement? Because they have worked so hard in life and made only a life called career. So I have to retire this life because I finished my career, not knowing that there are a lot of unfinished business. So our job in our mentoring program is we want to convert those so-called sectarian career path or social life into a holistic approach to life called a life path, which satisfies the 5 key areas. When you start to be deliberate in your livingness, integrating and synthesizing the family life, career life, social life, and contribution to society, spiritual life, and health life, that is called a life path. But most people do not have even the planner to include those 5. They only have a planner, the agenda to meet clients, to dine with the clients, to go to conferences, and most of the planners include only meetings into the career path. There's no plan to have a spiritual practice. There's no plan for health enhancement. There's no plan for spiritual development. And there's no plan for social contribution. So if you don't have that in your planner, the agenda doesn't create a milestone to be met and measured. So why do people succeed in a career? Because they have milestones, they set their goals, they have timelines, they have deadlines, they have measurements, Six Sigma, they can measure even how quantifiable and how they qualify the result. But that is only 1 out of 5. So if 1 succeeds out of 5, there's only 20%. So most people are successful at the 20% of their life, but maybe fail in the other 3. So if you grade their life 0 to 100 as a life path, they're still below 50%. 1 out of 5 is 20%. So I wish in the future, even high schools should have at least the idea that there are 5 paths to live to make a life path. And we are responsible and accountable to make this successful. When that is an intentional idea every day or every week, and your planner has the 5K areas, definitely you will achieve those milestones because you set those goals. If you don't set the goals, one is taller, the other one is shorter. Or they might accidentally satisfy the other areas because we have just the instinct to do them, but not deliberate, systematic approach, which is different from the performance of a very systematic, deliberate approach and goal set. So if you want to bring a career path into life path, you have to bring all the 4 other areas into that career. Then this is called the thread of life, a rainbow, the life rainbow. All the colors come in, not only one color. And not only the color of money. The color of love, the color of social intelligence, the color of spiritual intelligence, the color of good health. In the future, the success of a human being is not measured only on how much you have achieved in your career life, but how well you have lived in all these areas, including your health. That will be the measurement of how successful you live. Now, success in terms of money, how branded your name, how much reputation you have achieved, and how much social capital you have because of your marketing strategies. But in the future, they will count how many people were benefited and to how much extent of benefit, into how much time would they benefit from you. So that will be the measurement of gross life path average quotients compared to a career quotient of IQ only. So when that is measured, people will work for it. And at the same time, they will be habitual at the end, not even to work for it because they live their life as a way of life. All right. If you think the weakest point in your life is something that you're out of the pie chart, you would know your incoming problem. So you can solve this problem proactively by looking which is the thinnest curve. So that is one thing you can do. Now another formula that we use in our formula. See, when you live your greatest life, people do it by accident. So people are merely existing because they do not have deliberate purpose that will guide their weekly life to achieve those 4 important time frames. Now, what are the 4 most important time of our lives? First, time we were born, and time we die. Now, what are the other 2? The second time is the time you have discovered your greater purpose. The third is when you have achieved your greater purpose, and then the time of death comes. Most people die with only 2. Majority of people. This is called a mediocre life, normal life. This is a successful life. When you were born, you have discovered your purpose, and you are working towards it, and suddenly you die. But legendary lives, avatars, people who are great in their own existences, they are born, they discover their purpose, they achieve it deliberately, and then they die. That is legendary. So if we can only do that purposely and deliberately, we can achieve a legendary life without having all the gimmicks, because it is like a milestone. Okay, another principle that we have is, aside from the 2 wings and the 1 foot in heaven and 1 foot on earth concept, which is this, spiritual and material, we also have the formula of the 3. What is the 3? The Trinity. If you look at every part of creation, whether you or the trees or the chicken or the animals or the plants, they are guided by 3 components of godliness, or the nature of God. Power, love, and intelligence, or creative intelligence. The Trinity. That's why in almost all big religions, they believe in the Trinity or the mysteries of the Trinity. In Indian philosophy, we have Shiva, which is God the Omnipotent, God the Almighty in Christianity, God the Father in Christianity. We have Vishnu, which is the God the Preserver, God of love, which is symbolized in Christianity as Christ, the love of God through Christ. Christians have that concept. And this is God the Preserver, love preserved. And the God the Creator, Brahma, or the Holy Ghost, the Holy Spirit, which is the creative intelligence. Mixing the 3 principles is the secret of life. And there's a saying also in Christianity that we are made into the likeness and image of God, in whom we live, move, and have our being. Meaning to say that we are made into the image or qualifications of God. God of power, God of love, and God of creative intelligence. So, where does your mind belong on the Trinity? Mind? Is your mind intelligence? Yes. Your mind creates. So your mind is a copy, a spare part of God's creativity to create. Your mind creates your thoughts, your planning, your goal setting, your milestone development. Everything is the mind. Now, your heart and emotion is the one that exudes love and feelings, which is the copy of the quality of God of love, the receptacle of love, the giver of love. You are the channel of love. So the heart and the emotions. See, if you have a lot of love, you tend to preserve. Now, God the destroyer is your vitality and your power. Without vitality, you don't have discipline, you don't have focus, you don't have the ability to finish what you start. So when you have a lot of love and a lot of intelligence, without power, you cannot finish what you start, and or the speed of achieving result is low. So if you look at the Trinity principle, everyone here has a certain strength and weakness or predisposed weakness because of the imbalance of the Trinity. So if you want to live your greatest life, you need to work towards balancing the Trinity. What is the Trinity again? Power, vitality. If you don't have vitality, what happens to your production and productivity? Low. What happens to your fear when your will is low? When your willpower is low, your fear goes up. Will you start worrying more when you're devitalized? When your willpower is low, all your fear accelerates or amplifies, exacerbates. Now, what if you have so much willpower and you decrease love? What is the result? Anger, irritability, intolerance, bossiness, manipulativeness, and control. Dictatorship. What are dictators? People with a lot of power without conscience. So when that is the quality of a leader, there is dictatorial bossiness, there's a control, there is a certain destruction that is happening. So if you increase a lot of power and decrease love or lack of love, that is called destruction. Now, when you increase love and you decrease power, what happens? You have guilt. Who are more guilty? The strong people or the emotional people? The heart-centered people are more guilty. The strong people or the intelligent people are not much, there's much arrogance or pride, but less guilt. So the equation is, if you have so much love and feelings and you have less power, there's tendency to have guilt and grief. Increase the will, grief goes down, guilt goes down. It is the antidote to guilt. Power and love has a balance. So a society that is full of guilt has a lot of love but less willpower. Who is more guilty, the Chinese mentality or the Indian mentality? The Indian mentality has more guilt complex. The Chinese has less. That's why China can conquer Tibet or other areas, and they do not have enough sensitivity to whatever people say. But India has never conquered any country. It was always a victim of being attacked by the Mughals, by the British. So if you look at the guilt of conquering, the Indian is number one. That's why if I compare an Indian business person with the Chinese is very strong and more will and more tacticality. The Indian has more heart and creative intelligence, generally speaking, because of their training. In Chinese, like I was a Chinese lineage, you should not cry. It's a weakness to cry. In India, you have to cry because a lot of people will help you. Right? When you cry in India, it is a benefit.
It's not a kind of people are helping you, it's a kind of a repentance also.
Yeah, repentance, and also your heart tends to melt when you see suffering, right? It means to say there is a tendency for you to have a heart-centered approach in life, or called bhakti, or devotion. So if you look at even the goddesses in India, there are more goddess on the bhakti side or devotional side than Brahma or Shiva energy. The incarnations of more love gods, deities, are more than any of the other qualities of Shiva, will, and intelligence. So if you see the Trinity, we are a copy of that qualities. If anything is imbalanced, there's a certain predisposed problems or predisposed weakness or strengths. I'll give you a quiz. What happens if your mind intelligence is very high and your heart is, emotions and love is lower? What is that? Arrogance. Mental pride, mental criticalness, meticulousness, critical mindedness. And so if you have so much intelligence, you're always looking for faults. Because you do not feel what others feel. So you will be an auditor to a lot of people's mistake. And that is a difficult boss. To be a smart boss with no heart, you will always have a problem, right? Now, what if you have so much love as a boss and you have much less intelligence or less intelligence? What happens? Unfinished works. Starting many things, a lot of wishes, but no practicality. So again, the strategy to do processes And to come from A to B processes are not also done. So a lot of loving people that are happy but bankrupt at the end. It's good for non-profit. Charity will work. But you have to have a donation scheme to get funds so that you don't have to think, you just have to execute. Infrastructure would be bad. When you go to Tibet, there's a big road that separates the Tibetan and Tibetan Chinese. You will be surprised that the Tibetan Chinese, they have big buildings with big billboards in Chinese, like very organized. Everything has a structure. On one side, it is all the old buildings that nobody is taking. The streets are not clean and they did not put no street names. Just a street, distance. Here it's all structure. Down one is no structure. So when you see this side, there's a lot of love and a lot of the old system of love education. Here is the strictness. So there is a benefit from each side, and there's also the weakness from each side. If you have too much strictness, what happens also without love? You will beat everybody until they almost cannot perform. Or you condescend, or you try to control. So the Trinity in you is so important to profile. If I look at people and I look at their energies, I will profile people by looking on their energy system, on which is stronger. Power, the heart, or the mind. Then I know exactly where to coach you, because I would know that why should I talk more about love in your life if you're already a Mother Teresa? I would talk about practicality of the mind and maybe willpower development. So when I coach Einstein types, I would not have to focus more on intelligence. I would coach on conscious development and on willpower development or vitality and health. If I will coach maybe the George Bush type or the Moses type, I would not talk about power anymore. I would talk about heart development, emotional intelligence, and spiritual intelligence. So the tools that I give a George Bush or Moses or St. Peter type or Shiva type would be different from a Dalai Lama type client. It's not the same. By looking at the profile, why waste time talking to Mother Teresa about how loving the world is to be done? How that is already registered as given. I would consume 80% of my time talking about mind development and tactical development, strategic development of their wishes, sequencing things, putting deadlines, and all kinds of strategic coaching. And maybe more exercise for them to improve their willpower and speed. Because the love type are slower. People who love tends to cement. When you say, let's go, the willpower will say, okay, let's go. They're in the car waiting. The love type will go to the bathroom, look for the key, look for the wallet, look for the bag. Like there are 5 things in their hands. And preservation, collection. And of course, the George Bush type will be waiting. The word now to them is like in 1 minute they're in the car. The now for others is 30 minutes after they go to the bathroom first, go to the mirror, and after 15 minutes they go to the car. Of course, that would be intimidating and a source of conflict. Not because they don't love each other. It's preferences of time. In using the bathroom, that's even more difficult. The Mother Teresa time will need more time, and you cannot push them because they need more time. The George Bush need only 1 minute to go and flush and come out, right? The Einstein, it will take a little bit of time because they read the books in the bathroom. I said, what are you doing there? Okay, I'm reading 1 chapter. As a target, I read 3 books a week. So I read 3 books in the bathroom, 3 weeks, 3 days in the car, 3 chapters in here. So they have a quota of reading. No wonder why they take more time, because they read in the bathroom, and especially looking at the stock market, stock options. The others pray in the bathroom. They take time rituals. Okay, so if you look at the clashes of people, it's not because they don't love. It is more of likes and dislikes based on what lens are you looking at life. The willpower people are always fast. They want everything now. They eat fast. They are already into the dessert, and the person is still in the soup. The Mother Teresa is still eating soup. They're already dessert. They can chew food while talking. The others, they chew slowly, and they count 21 before they swallow. Really, there are people that count 21 bites and swallow. 21 bites. They are calibrating. I have a lot of students like that. If I say break, they have to be first pushed to the dining, because they will have to chew their food very carefully. And the George Bush, they can be 5 minutes before break and finish in 5 minutes. Okay. So if you look at how we deal with relationships, some of you said better relationship. It is how to manage expectations of people. If you do not profile people's likes and dislikes, it's hard to manage their expectations. How can you manage the Mother Teresa if you don't know their likes and dislikes, their strength and weakness, and their seeds of failures? How do you manage the relationship with the George Bush type, who want to be strong and speedy, if you don't know their preferences and likes and dislikes, where you can clash? And how would you manage the Einsteins if you don't know their likes and dislikes? So we should be sensitive to the different profiles, and then we can jive commonalities before likes and dislikes. Do not prick them where they are already pricked and wounded. So the Trinity is a very important aspect. The two is fly with two wings. Heaven, earth, two. Yang and yin. Feminine, masculine. So those are the two, right? The Trinity is power, vitality, will, the heart, and the mind. The Trinity. You have those Trinity. Whichever is in balance will always have a problem. If you start to balance, you can manage. If you were in the center, you have power, you have heart and mind. You can manage the Mother Teresa, the George Bush, and the Einsteins. You are the boss of, or leader of the leader of the leader. Okay? So by being aware of your profile, you're starting to manage your own weakness, because you know exactly where you're strong and weak. Most people ask them, who are you? They will tell them for 2 hours who they are. Tell them, who are you not? They will say, well, see, most people know only who they are, but who they are not is difficult. So again, the superiority complex aspect. The power is so high that you don't want to see your weakness. The Mother Teresa type, the type 2, they know all their weaknesses, but they don't recognize what they have done. So they have guilt complex also. All right? The Einstein, sometimes they forget what they're doing. They're busy into meetings, they're always busy in everything. And so they're lost in their minds. They live in their minds. The Mother Teresa lives in their hearts. That is a busy developing the power. So managing, even selling ideas to the three types is important. How do you sell an idea to the powerful people? Is it friendship? Or is it something that empowers their power and their position of power? So you don't have to be friendly to them, as long as this will empower you. Say, okay, give me that. The other one is about relationship building. They will say, if it doesn't harm other human beings, I will buy it. If it doesn't harm the environment, I will buy it. If it helps the poor, I'll buy it. So charitable-hearted, benevolent, altruistic human beings. This one, what are the specs? Is it the latest? How much? Do I have guarantees for this? How much are they insured? Can I have a return policy? Can I have an exit clause? All about the controls, right? So these people, with the same computer selling to the three, have to have a different soundbite. That's why some people always believe that you have to be loving to sell. It doesn't hold through a George Bush. If you smile too much to a George Bush, that's why you're smiling. If you don't smile, sometimes they prefer. Sometimes you have to gauge that some people do not like you to smile. Because maybe their wife is a smiling one and they hate to have a smile. Because, what are you smiling? How much do you want? They think that a smile costs something, you see. Okay. Now, the 4 kinds, what is the 4? Formula of 2, the formula of 3, the formula of 4. What is the 4? There are 4 kinds of performers, or 4 kinds of husbands. Okay, one that has good attitude, but poor aptitude. Good attitude, but no skills. So they are very loving, very, very sweet, but they don't bring the money home. So that's also bad, right? Now the second performance is they have a lot of sweetness, a lot of care, but they have all the skills. See, if you are employing an employee that has achieved their targets, but they are very stressed, very aggressive, you cannot fire them because they have achieved their target, right? But then you have to educate them on the emotional intelligence. So you can have a husband or a partner that is very, they can bring the bacon home or the money home, but the attitude is bad. So it's still not complete. Now, the third kind of performance, a person has a good attitude and a good aptitude. Good skills and good heart. Now, that is the double edge. If that is your spouse, you would be insecure. Because everyone likes your husband, likes, they're good looking, they smell good, they have, a good personality, they have good sweetness, they drive a good car. They're almost perfect, right? But you have a lot of competitors. So every 11 p.m. you always think, who is here? So you become jealous also. And also, if you employ these people, you better give them a good position of power and leadership to grow, because they're always looking for the greener pastures. You have always to be nice to them and promote them and give them the salary they want, or at least the benefit they want. And you don't contain them. You have to open the avenues that they can co-create with you rather than employ them. You work with them rather than work for you. Then they will stay with you for a long time because you satisfy this so-called no boundaries expansion or outside the box criteria. How about the fourth type of performer? Your husband doesn't have money and has a bad attitude. Or the person has no attitude and no money. What happens? Or the employee does not have a skill and they're still very aggressive. You fire them, right? You can fire your spouse and say, okay, you don't have an attitude and aptitude, so it's difficult. In India, it's not easy, right? I think in the US it's easier. Or other parts, Europe. Okay, so those are the Formula 4. So you have to identify yourself, whether you are the type 1, type 2, type 3, or type 4 performer. And if you are the employer, you need to assess people on that. You don't have to have this long profiling, because what they were, it doesn't mean that's what they are. People are moving targets. People change. They achieve so much in life, but now they are not in good shape. So you have to assess them now also. Okay, the Formula 5, we talk about the 5 key areas, right? Now, there's also another 5. The 5 levels of ascending intelligence. What are those? What are the different intelligences to allow you to live your greatest life? Not only a great life, because most of you or all of you have already lived your great life. But to have it greater or greatest, you need to have this formula added to your collateral in life. 5 levels of ascending intelligence. It's not being kinesthetic or tactile, or it's more of ascending intelligence. For example, your gut instincts. Is intelligence used to know the right thing at the right time now, which is different from intuition, which is far-fetched. Instinct is now. It's not about future. What your reflex of situations is instinctive intelligence. Your gut instincts, your fire in the belly gives you that instincts. Second is emotional intelligence. Your EQ, or the ability to use emotions intelligently, or the power of the heart. Now, the third intelligence is concrete mental intelligence, the ability to use your logical, sequential, common sense thinking, which is so-called left brain thinking, which is not exactly correct, but let's just label it as such, because that's what the medical doctors say. The left brain thinker or the concrete mind thinker, where you see things as a concrete, grounded person, details. The fourth intelligence is called the abstract mental intelligence, which is the ability to see a bigger picture. If you are looking at the whole city, you're looking at it as a pilot, the bigger schemes. The concrete mind is like the taxi driver on the ground, looking at the details at the ground. If you're able to think as a pilot, looking at everything in a bigger scheme, and act as a taxi driver on the ground, you are the best thinker around. Most people either are so philosophical and talk about ideas in the boardroom meetings, but never execute them. And those others are very concrete, very detailed, but they absorb on the daily affairs, but they forgot the bigger picture also. You have to be both if you are the leader of leaders, to be able to see the bigger picture at the same to act daily. If you can do that, you can able to execute what you think. Not only what you think and not do. Or not only do and not think. Yes.
Is there a technique you can use if you get too caught up in the details and you want to be more at a higher level, like an overview?
Is there a way of developing the abstract mind to be able to see the bigger picture of things?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a technique in my book that teaches you abstract thinking. How to expand your mind to think abstract, to think of philosophies, to think of principles, to think of the bigger picture. Most of the question you should ask is why. When you bring the components into why, that becomes abstract. But if you want to be concrete, you have to ask the question, what, when, and how, and where. So if I have a child that I will develop their abstract thinking, the question why is their teacher. Why? Most philosophers have become philosophers by the question why. To search for the reason of things. To search for the reason of events. To search for the motives of situations. So if you look at the detectives, they do not only see the evidence by the components they see. They always interpret the why this, why that. Yes.
What book is it?
Huh?
What book is that?
The book and Success to Fulfillment. I have the book on abstract thinking, how to develop your abstract mind, and what are the ramifications of the mind, like from common sense to higher common sense. So there's such thing as a common sense, and there's such thing as higher grade of common sense. Those who are traveled more around the world and have lived in different culture, their common sense is far, far more advanced than common sense of a local nature. It's here. Yeah. So if you are able to see different cultures and expose yourself to different religion, your ability to interpret the commonalities of religion versus the differences is more profound. That's why I do not ask which is the best religion anymore. My question is, why do we have many religions? If you start to ask questions on why do we have many religions, you will not even find conversions to convert other people to another religion, because there are different purposes of religion, and you need to respect that for a specific geographic location or type of human beings. Most people fight and kill for the sake of God because they are converting others who is the best religion instead of why do we have many religions? Then the respect will come. It's here. Concrete, more down. From abstract to components. Abstract is from components to the reasons of things. Components, the bigger picture. And one of the last part is the spiritual intelligence, which is called intuition, wisdom, and psychic intelligence. More and more do we have children today who are psychics, who can see things ahead, who can even know things before they read. And some old people, they would know who's going to die by their psychic premonitions or precognitive faculties. I have this discussed. All the 10 psychic faculties of human beings are in my book, Inner Powers, which is ready to be printed soon in the download level. Okay, inner powers. If you look at the X-Men movies, the mutants, the heroes movies, and all this, even the story of Yoda and Star Wars, they have discussed in a film expression the different psychic powers, but more entertaining. But there are a lot of children today who are more advanced, who have these faculties, and the problem is, the predicament is that they are not nurtured by their parents because the parents are ignorant about this extra faculty, and so they suppress them, and then they started to become indifferent. They do not express the natural faculty as they grow older, so they become imbalanced because they need to always suppress it, so that extra power has to come out somewhere else into an ADD format. I have healed a lot of ADDs, and some of them are advanced. Some of them are not advanced. Not all of them are advanced. Once you liberate the power, the sacred fire that comes with them, and channel it properly to the creative mind and to the hearts, they become almost super kids. But if you suppress them, you're suppressing a bomb. What would happen? Every time they want to bully people or kick somebody. Because that energy has to come out. And so if there's ignorance in parenting or in schools today, there will be a time that the schools will have very advanced children who cannot be contained anymore by normal disciplinary measure, but they need to express through certain things that are greater than our test papers today, than our rote education that is memorizing things that are obsolete to them. Imagine teaching a person who is already an avatar, and the teacher is not enlightened at all. What will happen in the schools? Oh, they will have a lot of dropouts. They don't like to memorize too much. Why? Why memorize something that is old? Why not think of new things and set new paradigms so that they will create a new future rather than a future that is so old they do not apply anymore what their lifestyle is not going to be workable. So that will be a crisis in education very soon because of that. Just mark my word, in a few years. It's happening already. They need to be given a new avenues and new paradigms to challenge their consciousness, to expand rather than to inhibit. Our traditional education inhibits the more advanced children. They start to rebel and they start to not be interested. I think even Benjamin Franklin, is that Benjamin Franklin? He was kicked out from school because he was labeled as underdeveloped, according to the standard of his time. And yet he is one of the best presidents of the United States and a genius and at heart, and not only a mind, but he has got wisdom. He's already advanced before that. All right, so our problem is how to re-educate the educators to be more enlightened, to enlighten the enlightened. It's not anymore education. It's an enlightened education that we need today. It's not an education anymore. The rote education is not enlightened education. It's memory education, which is paper testing. So the Mother Teresa will always fail in that. The athletes who are into their lines of actions will never excel in an Einstein environment. So if the teacher is Einstein, the Mother Teresa will not do well. The Newtons will do well. Because there are 8 types of children. And there are different ways of educating and parenting them. So this has to come out. So that will come again, the 8 types of children principle. The 8 types of human design. So we also propose the idea of charting children and adults. And husband and wife has to be profiled, see the match, or to alloy their strength rather than to put them into wrong chemistry. A lot of solutions are available. A lot of conflicts can be resolved if only the psychology behind relationships can be studied and be counseled and mentored. Okay, we also have the 7 cycles of life, the Formula 7. There are 7 subdivisions of a year of 365 into 52 days, approximately. The worst time of the year is around 3 weeks before your birthday and at least 1 week after sometimes. It is like the time your soul will purge all the negative things that is from the past. I call it sometimes the toilet time of the soul. The time it excretes things that you would not even imagine that you have. All the challenges of purging, purgatory, purging. You have like a purgatory life when you have this cycle. Or at the middle of the year, around 4 times 52 days after your birthday. You reckon it from your birthday, count around 210 or 15 days. That is another toilet time of the soul, where emotions comes out. For menopausal women, this is the most difficult time in each year, where they have mood episodes, mood swings, crying spell, they don't understand why, and the sweat at night. Because the hormone energy is so imbalanced, the limbic system is so imbalanced during that time. And also, depressed people tend to be suicidal before their birthdays. And weak people, like weak old people, they tend to die before their birthdays. Or they would say, I feel cold, I cannot reach my birthday anymore. Because it's like the lowest time of the year. So by charting the seasons of life, there are 7 seasons of your life every year by 52 days. And there are 7 seasons of 7 years. If you were 48 to 49, that's the most difficult time. 41 to 42 is another difficult time. 55 to 56 is a very difficult time also. But 42 to 43, 21 to 22, 35 to 36, 28 to 29, those are strongest time. It's like the winter of winters. Whatever you plant tends to grow. The last cycle called the 48, 49, or before your birthday is the winter of your life. If you plant something, it does not grow. It's a high maintenance. So do not start any new idea or new business or buy a new house or we get married during that time. It is a headache. It's like high maintenance relationship. If you incorporate the business before your birthday, you tend to lose it, even you work so hard. If you do it after your birthday, especially on a time that is the first season, like 42 to 43, the year, or 35 to 36, or 28 to 29, or 21 to 22, or if you were a child, 14 to 15. That time is like spring. Whatever you plant tends to grow. So there are times that you lubricate your success with certain timing issues. When you say auspicious time, is those times that is like spring when you plant. Winter is a destruction time. So you don't want to plant during winter time. It tends to wither, it tends to die. Same with relationship building, same with business and so forth. So we teach you how to chart your life according to the 7 cycles and 7 years. There is such thing as positioning of timing, not time management, timing. Timing is more of timing action and situation. Time management is more of linear time. So they say that everything is timing, right? Timing is everything. It's almost everything. If you can position the right idea in the right time, you have inevitable success. If you have the right idea done in the wrong time, you have resistance. Even how good you are, it seems that it's blocked. So if we can learn timing of the ideas and execution of ideas, you tend to glide in the surf of time. It's like going to the second floor. You stand in the escalator, you go up without working hard. But of course, if you work harder, you will reach faster in the second floor. Now, wrong timing is when the escalator is going down and you're going opposite. You can still reach the second floor, but you have to work harder. And a lot of people are like that. They always go like a salmon. They always swim up the river. And of course, there's more struggle. So people are used and addicted to a struggle life, coping up all the time. By learning the timing, you're starting to swim in the surf of time, rather than opposite the wave. Okay, so this is what principles are. So we have uncovered or unleashed a lot of these principles based on my research in traveling around the world and learning from masters and sages. And I collected a few of their concepts. And I distilled them into a palatable information that I can teach to you today and formulate this formula of living your greatest life: 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 5 plus 7 plus 8. I have explained all of them to you. You cannot forget them. What is 3 again? Trinity. Balancing of power, love, and heart. Mind. What is the 5? Huh? 5? 5 intelligences, right? Instincts, emotional, concrete, mental, abstract, mental, and spiritual. And 5 key areas of life. To satisfy, to bring your success into fulfillment and balance. What is the 7? 7 cycles of life to manifest the auspicious time, and what to do and what not to do during what time. And what is the 8? The 8 types of human design and humanity, where you have the George Bush, you have the Mother Teresa, you have the Donald Trump, you have the Oprah, we have the Einstein, you have the Mahatma Gandhi, and you have the Thomas Jefferson. And the 8th type is like Bill Gates, the distillation of at least 3 types in one person. So if you will apply profiling and you have the steps, because we don't have profiling tools only. We will, if you have profile, what is the next step then? What would you do now? What is your next step? How do you cross from A to B then in 6 months or 1 year? So we have coaching and mentoring science to bring you from this imbalance to a balanced state. By knowing the profile, you can correct the imbalance. If you don't know the imbalance, how can you balance something that you don't know the imbalance? So identifying and unfolding first the imbalance, then you can correct the imbalance or rectify certain weaknesses. Okay, so that is why we can claim that living our greatest life is possible. When you set your life into the possibility in a bigger scale, the probability is bigger and reality is bigger than most people with this possibility because they don't have tools. See, with a crane machine, you can build the Twin Towers today. If you see around 300 years ago, it's not easy to build the Twin Towers in a few years. So the possibility, because of machines and computerization, were also an additional knowledge, the work of the intelligent mind. Remove that, we are still behind. The internet, the Bluetooth technology, the GPS, the TV, omnipresence of God is television and cell phones, is omnipresence. Omniscience is GPS. This is possible. The development of our civilization and culture was attributed not because of loving people then, because these intelligent people today that congregated the world into a bigger home for everyone. The planet became a home for everyone because we have now annihilated space and time because of cell phone and internet and web. That's a great invention by the omniscience of God through intelligent people today. So they are advancing the development of our world because of that mind. Heart was developed through the religious people and schools. The will, politics, and pioneering people conquerors had advanced also our world because of that power. Combining the three in you with the heart of Mother Teresa, the mind of Einstein, and the power of Moses, or the power from the Olympian, you add the philanthropic capability of Bill Gates. In your team, if you cannot do it alone, then you need many people around you to complete that. It's called a perfect team, or an ideal team, your best team. So to do big things in life, you have now team consciousness to build your dreams, not only one dreamer anymore. Maybe one or two dreamers, but many teams to execute. So with that, I think I would open for a few questions now, or if you want, I can give you an ending meditation that can balance the three. I would like to give you today a technique on balancing the three. Power, the heart, and the mind. Any question or illumination? Please educate me if you have any other tools to give. I have more tools, but today I've given enough. Any suggestion? Any? Rajan? Jerry? John? Okay. Means to say I've over-talked. We have already consumed 1 hour something anyhow, and we need to breathe. Okay. How do you develop power? Because a lot of people have talents. Most people with talents can reach and perform at 85%. Or people with love. To go to around 95%, you need an extra power plus love plus intelligence. 96 to 100%. The champion. Power, the heart, and the mind. The champion usually is here. If you have power and talent, you can go to the 95%. If you have a lot of love, you can reach the 85%. So most people will reach somewhere here. The people who can handle stress can go here. Stress tolerance and fertility. The one who has balanced the power, love, and heart is the boss of the boss. So to be here, you need that balance. To be here, you can have one very loving or very intelligent. You can reach the 85%. But to go here, you need to have at least two, or an aggregate of the three. The one who is maximum power, love, and mind, who gets that 100%, is the one that has the most of the three. So imagine a table whose one leg is tall, that one is shorter. That's imbalance. So how much imbalance you have is the Trinity you have. Which is the tallest leg? Now, if you have only 1, 1, 1, you're balanced but still in lower scale. If you have 8, 8, 8 versus 10, 10, 10. So imbalance with respect to whom? Your potential benchmark would be a person who is more advanced than you if you want to grow. But if you're comparing yourself and you're weak and you compare to the weak, then it might be a good feeling that you are better than another person. But your next step will be a benchmark to another league. So if you have the same league for years, the same connectivity to anybody, and you have not expanded your league to another level, it means that you have not grown because you don't have desire to move on to another league of friendship or league of companionship or league of circles of contacts. So it is good that if you want to increase power, you need to increase your contact with people with power. Because you can copy and emulate power by copying or osmosis. There are 3 ways of developing leadership. They surveyed leadership, how to develop leadership. 10% are born leaders. 35% were educated to become leaders, to manage and become leaders eventually, like MBA to DBA. The rest had developed leadership by osmosis with people with that leadership quality already. They become the executive assistant, they become the secretary, they become the wife, the husband, and they acquire through osmosis or integrated, being with them, copying them, or becoming part of their system. So if you want to acquire a loving heart, you associate yourself with the Mother Teresa, or you become aware that there's a non-profit work that you can serve with part-time, or you marry somebody with a heart. So you install the heart in you by, imagine Bill Gates without Melinda Gates. Maybe imagine Bill Gates married to Steve Jobs. Or Bill Gates married to, Einstein married to Newton, Isaac Newton. Yeah, they will have a very long, intelligent mind, but maybe the power and they will stay 24 hours in the lab. They will be married to their work and together, of course, they will be happy together in the lab. Or imagine George Bush being married to Margaret Thatcher. Okay? Or imagine Mother Teresa married to Dalai Lama. They will be very happy and spiritual, but they don't have money to support the project. Sure. Okay? Or imagine Mother Teresa married to Dalai Lama. They will be very happy and spiritual, but they don't have money to support the project. So to get married to somebody of your equal or your own quality is not always the best complementary partnership. In fact, it's good at first to be looking at each other's eye to form the love duo. The longer relationship are not that. At certain levels of your maturity, the one who sees the same direction will be longer in relationship. Or seeing the same vision together, not looking at each other only. So it's good to start to look together. So sometimes the complementary relationship stays longer because of love by need, complements, not love by duplication. Because the imbalance will create another imbalance somewhere, and then that fight will happen. When there's a lot of love but no food to serve in the table, that's going to be a problem. When there's a lot of power and it becomes destructive, there will be conflict. It's become competitive relationship. Or if you have so much intelligence and there's no love, there'll be a lot of editing and auditing about the money and not about relationship. So there is such thing as complementary relationship or a chemistry or alloy relationship. Okay. Any other? All right, I'd like to teach you one simple thing today, or two. How do you release a lot of your fears, your anxieties, your emotional turbulence when it happens, and how do you release your anger and frustrations that easy, and be able to live a life that is calm, predisposed with centeredness. Now there are maybe two techniques you can do. One is to center your consciousness here. Why? This is the center of beingness. You know, in Zen meditation, all they're doing a lot is to focus on their breath, focus on the tip of the nose and here, and they do this. Or they usually sit like that. And they just keep on doing that by focusing on the navel. Martial arts masters, they do that for 2 hours, and they're looking on the center of awareness where you are in the center of your being. Being happens when you're here. When you're in the loving, why do our loving people do not have peace? Because if you're too loving without the will, you are so sensitive. You become so empathic to a lot of people's issues. And you cannot sleep because you're worrying, called anxiety. See, warriors are good meditators. The only thing is they meditate on the bad stuff. So worry, anxieties are very sensitive people who are focused on the negative incidents. So not all loving people are peaceful, by the way. Guilt, grief, sadness plagues this group. This one is, the mind is like a monkey or butterfly, like jumping from one to another, or they're always thinking of making money or deals. They're sleeping or they have romance, and they're thinking how much ROI would be, And so sometimes they like withdrawn, always thinking. This one, they're always looking on power, how to gain more power. You can have the being if you're here. And one of the center of your being is not the heart. You can be peaceful here but not serene. Because if you're too loving, you become too sensitive to all people's issues and you become saddened by people's suffering immediately. So-called compassion. So compassion people are not peaceful. Because they're always worried about somebody's mistake or somebody's noise, in their sleep they cannot sleep well because when there's a little bit of noise in the kitchen, they say, who is that? Or there's a lizard, like this. Oh, lizard. They're always looking, like our grandmothers, like, oh, somebody is like a robber somewhere, Then, oh, where's my son? Like, see, if you're too sensitive, you cannot quiet the mind. Now, if you're an Einstein, you cannot quiet your mind also because you're thinking of ideas after ideas, you see. So even you want to meditate, you are meditating and thinking. You're thinking of not thinking. So I'm meditating, I'm thinking of not thinking. I'm not thinking now. I'm not thinking. The more you don't think to think, you're thinking. And that's how people, they have meditated for 10 years, but they were thinking while meditating. They're not meditating. They're thinking.
About thinking.
Huh?
That's thinking about thinking.
Yeah.
It's metacognitive.
I'm thinking of not thinking. At the end of the day, they don't want to meditate. Why? I said, my mind gets more disturbed. Because if you're quiet, the more your mind gets disturbed because you can see all your thoughts parading. That's why in India they call it Vipassana meditation. It's the meditation of Buddhists who will observe their thoughts to pass and then they do not grab them and let them pass. Their guilt comes and it passes. All kinds of thoughts. Now, if you have 60,000 thoughts a day, which they say every human being that is intelligent will create 60,000 thoughts a day. That's a lot of thinking. So imagine 60 of them passing your mind. Now that's around 24 hours. If you have no work, that's good. In the olden times, the Buddhists don't have work, the monks. What would you do if you're in a cave? 24/7, 365. You have to observe your thoughts because if not, you will be counting days, 24 hours, 24 hours. But today, you go to drive-thru and eat while driving. And then one cell in here, and of course you have accident afterwards, you see. Today, we have what we call time poverty. We don't have enough time to do many things. People with financial prosperity sometimes have time poverty. The more money you have, the less time you have. So yes, we have financial prosperity, but we brought our life into time poverty also. Okay, so I'd like to give you another technique now to be able to complete the session today. Not only do we talk about the formula to live our greatest life, we will talk about how do you express a ritual every day that will balance this. Okay. In many spiritual training in the East, we focus on certain parts of the body to meditate, right? Now, one of the center of love in your system is here. When you're in love, you feel love here, right? Now, when you're thinking and you cannot remember and recall a certain data, what do you do sometimes? You look up like this and do like this, right? Why do you do that when you want to recall and use your mind? Do you know that you sometimes do like this? And if you remember the past, you do like this to the left. If you want to see the future, you go to the right like this. Yeah, there is. I've been experiencing a lot of people. You tend to raise up your eyebrows like this and eyes and roll it to the right side if you're imagining future events. You tend to do the life like this when you are thinking of the past or visualize. This is visualization, this is imagination here. Opposite. Imagination, you cannot imagine things you have not seen. You can only visualize it. So visualization is more left brain and there's a right brain, that's why it's called right brain, left brain, because of that. Now this part gets stimulated when you raise your eyes like this. That's why in a technique in spiritual science called third eye development, I teach sometimes people to look at their eyes and gaze at a point here to develop their third eye like the unicorn here. That's why in Christianity there's a saying that if thine eyes are one, you can say God or divinity. If you can see things from here, you can see into the absolute God. Absolute God is here. God of power, God of love, and God of intelligence. Whoever is here is godliness. More absolute than any of the three. So your so-called third eye is a collection of the energy of love, mind, and power. Alright, so we will study how do we concentrate. Now, first thing is you concentrate by focusing. Now here, if you see in different religions, they have the halo of saints, right? And Christianity, they have the wise men, the wise kings, and the crown of Jesus, and the crown of the Blessed Virgin Mary, and also in the Buddha's crown. Shamanism had the different feathers on the head of shamans. Chief, who are wise, they have the feathers here. Not all the shamans have feathers. Only the chieftain that is wise is a symbol of holiness, like the Egyptian pharaohs, is the one that they headdress. So with the Pope, symbol of holiness is the mitre. The lamas, they have their, like the hat, that is like the Pope, similar. So anything that has to do here is enlightenment or wisdom, or the seat of wisdom, or the seat of power. Seat of mind, seat of heart, conscience. When you can focus on this properly mentally every day, you will awaken those intelligences by breathing and concentration. There are invisible energies that stimulate this while focusing. So if you see the Christians, they have the Sacred Heart. In Buddhism, they see the heart of Buddha coming out as a shining light. Same with the Christian, Jesus has a light that comes from the heart in his pictures. And most people do this as a symbol of saluting you with my heart. I salute you with my heart. If you do this, I salute you with my mind. Here, I salute you with my soul. See, there are differentiations of that. And sometimes in the old Shaolin Buddhists, when they fight, they always do like this. They do not remove their hands because they're still saluting you while fighting. Of course, they were beaten because they used one hand. Yeah, they ransacked the temples. Now they have to fight with two hands and legs. Imagine only one hand, and the other one has two chakus and a knife. Okay, but that's why when I teach today, we always start with the heart when I teach martial arts. Because you need to have even compassion to your enemies or forgiveness before you fight or salute the divinity. There's always a divinity in a person. See, you do not hate the sinner. You hate the sin. The principle of, I do not hate you. I do not like what you do. That destroys something. See? So if you have the principle, you salute the divinity of the person like Namaste, Namaskar, Om Namah Shivaya. I salute the divinity within you. It's the same, Namaskar. So if you do that to a person who hates you, sometimes they cannot hurt you because like this very humble, benevolent nature, like the Thai, Okay, let's do this. This is one of the secrets. This is material and this is spiritual. If you combine the three instead of that, this is spiritual position for meditation. But if you do the middle, it's material position. If you do the three, you have the Trinity. See the difference? So if you want to balance your material and spiritual wing, you need to have the Trinity. If you want the Trinity, this is it. So if you want to practice, you can eat Chinese food with chopstick. Maybe the Chinese name is this, Trinity. Trinity. Okay. When you breathe, I want you to exhale deep and bring more air and energy to the lungs and puff out more toxins and carbon dioxide. Okay, it's like this. One more. Head straight. You concentrate on the heart to activate your emotional intelligence, mind intelligence, and spiritual intelligence. These three also activates immune system, defense, pituitary, and pineal gland to balance your hormones. It's a dual effect. Okay, close your eyes. Your mind will focus on the center of the chest, mid-brow, and the top of the head simultaneously, and breathe slowly. If your mind wanders away, you go back to the 3 points. And do not over-concentrate, just be gentle but focused. Another 10, ready? Okay, the same, head straight. Concentrate gently on the 3 centers and focal points. And breathe slowly and relax. Enjoy that inner peace and stillness as you breathe. One more time. Okay. Heart, mid-brow, on the top of the head. Breathe slowly and concentrate. Be still. Enjoy that inner peace and stillness. Okay. Open your eyes. Now, mind, power, including spiritual power, omnipotence, omniscience, omnilove. No, there's no omni. They forgot to include that in Greek and Latin and even in other languages. I wish they have omni amoroso or omnilove. Or see, they have omnipotent, almighty, all-knowing, omniscient. They did not put a word for that. That's really strange. That's why Om, Om, Om. or Om or Amen. Now, how do you develop that? See, by developing this, without developing this, you are very loving, very mentally active and acute in your thinking, very spiritual, powerful. But if you do not ground, the root again is missing. So how do you ground the power, the mind, and the heart? This is the center of being in the lower part. So how do you develop that? That beingness. If you are too emotional, it's not good. If you're too mental, it's not good. This is in being. Being the center of it, the it. So you do the left sign, left over right, and put the navel and focus here. And this is a meditation position where you center yourself until you become one with yourself. Okay? You concentrate here and breathe slowly and relax. Close your eyes. Focus on your navel. Breathe. Relax. Do not over concentrate. Just be. Be in being. If you're thinking, just go back there. If you're feeling, go back there to the navel. Just be there. Center of be. When your mind is active, go back to the focus in the navel area and keep on breathing. Okay, that's good. Now, if you have more time, 5 minutes is good. If you want to go deep, 10 minutes is good. In Zen meditation and martial arts meditation, we do this for 1 hour until we become, which we are doing. When the meditator becomes what they're doing, it's called contemplation, or in the yogic Sanskrit, it's called samadhi. In Zen, it's called satori, or becoming one. Now, that is basic. If you want to become more advanced, you can use different mantras to convert the energy into power, alchemized power. So in Christian, you can use the Amen, or in Muslim, Amen, and Jewish, like Amen. Vibrating that energy of the word of God or word of creation, like Amen or Amin. In Islam is Amin or Jewish. In Christian is Amen. In Buddhist and Hindu, they call the Om. Om. You have to have the longer consonant, because creation is spiritualization is O or A. More vowels more than consonant. So it depends on your religion or affinity of spiritual lineage. Amen, Amin, or Om or Aum, or Aum. So different traditions and lineage uses different words. And yoga, they also use a So, Ham, or Hamsa. Buddha or Jesus or Allah. Different religions uses their or you or who. So different traditions have different mantras. So if you have a power, you have the heart, you have the mind, and you have the being, you can be in the center of yourself, who you are, not what you are. What you are is you're a loving person, you're intelligent, you're powerful. Here is who you are. You do not define much on colors. You are what you are. I am that. I am. That I am is the center. I am that loving. I am that intelligent. I am that powerful. It's still descriptive. Here is it. God is. Ishvara. Shiva, Vishnu, Brahma. God the Almighty, God the All-Knowing, and God the All-Loving. So if you look at the different religions, they have different ways of representing this. Say that you are that. Okay? See the halos of saints? And there's a halo at the back of the head. Or in the front view, or this is the heart, sacred heart. And the Egyptians have vultures and cobra head here. And the Taoists, they have flower here. So the sacred heart, that is, the Egyptians uses this a lot. The third eye. The eye of Shiva or the eye of God, the same. The dollar has that in a dollar. You know the dollar, the pyramid has that, you see. The philosopher's stone, where you wish something. The eye of Shiva, the eye of Taurus, many names. This I describe everything in my book, Third Eye. Where's that? So if you look at a person with 1 foot in heaven and 1 foot on earth, there's an axis which is symbolized by the caduceus. The caduceus that comes from the sleeping beauty, the Shakti, the Kundalini. So Prince Charming went to kiss the sleeping beauty and they get married and they live happily after. The caduceus, the doctor, is very esoteric. The 2 snakes and the apple, the snake, the tree of life, the Adam and the Eve. This is the forbidden fruit. When you eat that, you become omniscient. That is the energy here, the energy of the soul, which is symbolized if you look at the Egyptian paintings. There's a round thing on the top of the head of the pharaoh. That is the soul. And in the Krishna drawing, that is the peacock feather, where you see the different colors, the peacock feather there. The green, the yellow, that. And the caduceus, that is the pearl on the top of the cane. And Christianity, that is the descent of the Holy Spirit, the dove here. The dove. When you have the descent of the Holy Spirit, when you have that light, there's an enlightenment. When the apostles receive that light and Pentecostal fire, they become more illuminated to preach. They start to have knowingness. So many religions have that symbol. If you start to look at the Egyptian symbols, you have that already. Where's the third eye? Yeah. If you look at all of this, I have described everything here. The universal symbols. The eye of God, the Trinity, the dollar eye, Christ with the light at the back, the Buddha with the head, light, Zoroastrian religion from Farsis, Taoism, the unicorn, the Egyptian. These are all universal symbols, but we are always seeing that as only drawings. When you start to look at them, Kuan Yin of China, Blessed Virgin Mary, Shiva, Natharaj, and you have Ganesh. So all religions that are really prominent have symbols. If you don't look at them, don't see the picture. Look at the picture and you have to see this one. The Sleeping Beauty and the Prince Charming is a hidden, and in the fables called the dwarfs. The 7 dwarfs, because they only specify the 7 chakras or 7, with different qualities. There are 12 of them, including this. Not only 7 dwarfs, many giants. Now, the mudra that you saw about the fingers, you can find it here. All the difference. What's the difference between this and that in many aspects. So if you have this book and study it, you will learn a lot of things that most people do not teach in the market. I did already all the research and validation. So all the things I'm talking about here, like all these things, the difference, what does it ignite in your consciousness? So different position are switches. Like if you look at the ninja, they do a lot of that. Why? Because it triggers certain power or siddha that they use. When you do this, it's different from this. When you have a headache, you can do this, and many aspects of healing also. All right, so I think today you have learned at least to become a Trinity, starting to be a Trinity. Power, the heart and the mind. If you can balance that, you become very calm and centered, especially if you rivet your attention here to get that beingness, which you are. Imagine if you're too emotional, you only have like this and a swing. If you're only mental, you do like this. If you're spiritual, you hang like a fulcrum, like pendulum. If you're only here, you become very instinctive. Imagine these are all riveted. How can you move? It's called total alignment. But if you're only emotional, then you swing like this. Or if you have only a nail here, you swing like this. Or here you have a pendulum. Here you will still swing. Imagine all of this riveted and develop. So your aura, just for the sake of last conclusion here, of advanced human beings, when I see them energetically, I'm giving them because you arrived. You did not go back because of the rain. So if you look at, okay, remember the light at the back of saints? Have you seen the picture of Buddha? There's a light here. The heart. And then you see the Tibetan, they have a light of the Buddha like that. Even the Blessed Virgin Mary. Now, this one is missing. Because they don't want to reveal that, because that's a secret. Because if you develop the power here, that is the power of creativity, called the Kundalini Shakti, or the sacred fire, or the fire in the belly. A powerful magnetic personality has a lot of that. The problem is they become too sexual and they cannot control sexuality unless the spirituality is active. So if you have a very, very strong power here, you can be rich. Anything you think materialize, because this is materialization of creative power, like the sex. Sex, creativity is creativity. This one is another power. Now, the problem is if your heart is small, your mind is small and here is small, this one is your boss. Your brain and your mind is here. Your soul is here. Sex, money and power. Greed. If you're too emotional and you're too big here, without power here, you're sweet, loving, and die as a sweet person. With all well wishes. If you're too mental, you die as a scientist. If you're too spiritual, you die as a spiritual person without money. But if you have all the three, one foot on earth and one foot in heaven. That is alignment. Your aura is not just a big aura on the heart is. You will also have here big. So you see the aura, it will be very balanced. These are very esoteric topics, but when you see now, it makes sense because you see pictures already in different portraits of saints. Yes. Yeah.
You said that if you have too much mental, you die as a scientist, and if you have too much heart, then you die as a loving person. Then
As a mystic, yeah.
so if you align everything, what do you die as?
You die as a legend. Or you will not die. Your name,
Carries on.
your service, your contribution to life will not die with you. How many scientists do you remember? Einstein, Newton, Graham Bell, many people. How many business people who are great in last century remember? there's so much of that, but whom do you remember that has lasted for centuries and thousands of years? Christ, the Buddha, all the avatars of many, many philosophies. Because they are not just love. See, most people who found religion are not just religious people. They are philosophers, they are practical people. How can they ever write, or how they ever download the scriptures if they're only loving, not intelligent? So if you see all the great people, they have this. They have that. Okay, another elimination. Where's the... Okay. But that's a very good question. You become immortalized rather than...
Yeah. Can I ask you a question too? You've talked to so many wise people in the world.
Yeah.
Where did you get the wisdom to understand how to rationalize the differences that didn't line up?
Yeah. I had to live my life with those principles until I validate. Because a lot of, by the way, this is a tribute. A lot of the wise people have also conflicts of opinions.
Right.
I tell you, my teachers have different opinions. One doesn't want even to hold money. He give you money, he said, please, I don't want money, it's dirty. It's like, the other person, money is good, let's spend it. The other person is in between. So there are many, many insights that I had been so confused because my mentors have different opinions about certain things, like money. Most of the old mentors do not like money because they think money is not good. So if you want to spiritually, you have to leave money. Now, I was most confused. And I was thinking, how would we build infrastructure to spread the teachings if we don't have money even to fly back to the United States from India? So I don't want to beg for a ticket. So I got confused a little bit. So at a certain level, I used my mind as a rational engineer, saying, I need to fly back, I need to earn money so that I will be able to serve more. So that I did not agree with my other mentors. I have to use my rational mind because I have some payments to do, you see? Most of them live in the caves, so they don't have any payment plan. There's no credit card, there's no internet, they don't eat, so they do not spend much, right? For you, you have to think of everything. Every time you breathe, your electricity is working, your internet is being paid, your car has a amortization. So you cannot do the yogic life that you only fly with one wing. So to me, I had gone across different teachings and challenged them myself and rationalized them. If you don't rationalize, you cannot pragmatically distribute the teaching to a civilization like this. And here you pay everything. You cannot just pray. You have to eat, you know. So I deciphered by experimentation and validation and by deduction and by using a universal concept. Because if there are four people who are wise who have conflicts, then you go to the next step is how universal are the concepts? How are they applicable in life day to day? I went higher than just the concept. So I did not stop in philosophy. Philosophy is very disturbing sometimes. They preach you too many things, but then when you apply it, it doesn't work. So I have to validate many abstract concepts and bring it into a digestible concept that can be taught to you. And to me, that's universal. Because I can teach to a Muslim, to an Indian, to a Chinese, to anybody. And it works because I did not take things that are controversial or so-called controversial. I can teach only. Now, the layers of teachings that are not applicable here can be true here. What is truth here can be weird here. So when I teach, I layer the truth based on who is listening. So if I'm teaching a person with a more advanced consciousness, I need to present the idea here so that it benefits them. If I'm talking to a big group of 1,000 people, I will teach here. Something funny, something entertaining, and they will bring a happy feeling. And I give them two techniques. Now to the more advanced people, I have to teach this one. What would they bring home as a new idea that will challenge their old ideas? I have to bring them to another scale where even what they so-called religious beliefs will start to mean sense, or it will be challenged also in a way. If you do not bring challenge to the mind and inspire the soul to go forward and or give a daily application of the teaching is just half-baked. You need to satisfy practicality, a higher philosophy, and also that it makes sense universally. Then the teaching was... So I had a big challenge with my teacher, by the way.
Yeah.
I adore them, I respect them, but I do not follow all the teachings until I validate it. It's like if you go to a grocery, you don't buy everything. So teachers are like groceries in some ways, not to buy, but there are things that doesn't apply to you. So to you, it's untrue. But to them, it's true because maybe at their level, it was possible. Remember that there are types of human beings. The truth to George was different from other trees in a sense of where do they look at through, like what lens. All right? So with that, I'd like to thank everyone, and I hope we have delivered to you tools or concepts. See, if you don't have tools, at least you have concept to start with. If you have concept plus tools, it's even better. You cannot tell a carpenter to build a house without hammers. You need the tools. So live your greatest life is not a concept to us, it is a way of life. So I hope that we have contributed to you today, and hopefully that we have more engagement to each other's time and learn from each other, and hopefully we can spread the teachings around and fly high with two balanced wings and a flower and barefoot where you're planted and spread your positive seeds around. With that, thank you again and good night.